Greetings and salutations, everybody. I'm Andrew from Team Respawn, and I wanted to talk about Halo Infinite, and I wanted to kind of make some predictions or bring some questions to you to kind of make you think about what could happen for Halo Infinite. And I'm going to talk about kind of everything with the game: the story, the gameplay, the mechanics, the game modes, the art style, a whole bunch of stuff, and just give you my thoughts and opinions on predicting what could be in Halo Infinite. As a disclaimer, I know nothing beyond what you know, and you probably actually know more than me. However, I think it's cool to talk about these things and maybe revisit this when the game comes out and see how right or wrong we were. And it's shaping up to look amazing, just from what I've seen. I've been blown away from that trailer. I think what they're doing is phenomenal, going in the direction that they are going. So I'm going to start with the story, and then go into the gameplay, and then the mechanics, and then finally the game modes in Halo Infinite. So I think the story obviously is the most pinnacle part of Halo games, which is pretty cool to see in this day and age where so many games are multiplayer focused or some games don't come with a campaign at all. Whether you think that that's lazy or innovative, that's just the situation of how it is. And I love that in 2018, people are still really, they care a lot about stories in their favorite games. And Halo, I think, is one of those games where people love the story for. Even though Halo 5 had really solid multiplayer mechanics and it looked beautiful and it ran buttery smooth and all that other stuff, people just didn't like it because of the story. And I think that's going to be one of the major points that they're going to have to hit, and hit very well, for Halo Infinite to be successful and to kind of, quote, save the brand, if you will, or bring it back up to where it was in terms of how favorable it was with the fans. Microsoft doesn't share numbers of their franchises anymore, but I wouldn't be surprised if Halo is as popular now as it was back in the Halo 3 days. I think it's just so many people of the community have vanished or left or aren't as active in it anymore that it makes you feel it's a lot smaller, or it's a fracture of, or fraction K, of what it used to be. But I think that Halo is still doing really well for Microsoft and for the Xbox brand in general. So I think this story is going to end up being some sort of Chief versus Cortana kind of a thing. And I think the beginning of the game is going to open up with, because from the trailer that we saw for the reveal of Halo Infinite, it appears that Halo Infinite jumps forward in time. I think it was like a year or something from the events of Halo 5. So a significant amount of time has passed in the game. And so I'm sure that one of the main questions that the game is going to present to the player for you to find out is, what has Cortana done in that time span? Is humanity really knocked on its hands and knees? Has humanity, really made Cortana take off and retreat kind of a thing, or what's happening? And from what we saw with the events ending with Halo 5, I think that humanity is really on its hands and knees, got really beat up technologically by Cortana. I'm sure that a lot of the AIs have joined her cause, and she's really just hunting down everyone on humanity that doesn't join her cause to be perfect or whatever. I'm curious to see, will there be any meetups or crossovers with the Halo Wars 2 characters? If you haven't played the story for Halo Wars 2, I'm about to spoil the ending for you, so you have like a 5-second warning starting now, because you should have played Halo Wars 2 story by now, seeing as how we're a Halo Wars channel. Okay, here it is. At the ending of Halo Wars 2, we see Guardians kind of surrounding Anders, and we know the Guardians, of course, from Halo 5, meaning that there's some sort of crossover plan between Halo Wars 2 and the main Halo series. I don't think they would have just thrown that out and left it on a cliffhanger ending if they weren't going to be using these sets of characters later on. And I think that Halo Infinite is a good chance for that to happen. So whether you see Master Chief meet up with Captain Cutter, or you see Anders teaming up with like Roland or Lasky or something, I'm really not so sure how they'll do all this stuff. We do know that the Banished is still out there, and Atriox is alive. We know that there are the Guardians showing up in the Halo Wars characters area with the Ark, and where Anders, I forgot what installation Anders ended up on. But anyway, I think that we're going to see something of the Halo Wars characters in Halo Infinite, which I think would be really, really cool. I don't expect to play as those characters, but I think it would be awesome to see like a cutscene or like a mission of interaction or something. I think that would be epic. It would make me feel so cool on the insides. I also really like to know who will die in Halo Infinite. So in Halo 5, no one died at all, which was unbelievable to me. It's like asinine that we play a Halo game and none of the characters in the story die. And so I think that they should really slim this list of characters in the game down. I mean, you have Red Team, you have Fire Team Osiris, you have Locke, you have Chief, Arbiter, Halsey, Palmer, Lasky. You have a ton of characters, and I don't think that the game needs all these characters. I mean, the games were fine when it was just Chief and the Arby, or really just Chief by himself in Halo 2. So I think they can really trim this down, especially if you're going to throw the Halo Wars characters in here with a crossover or something. So I think maybe something epic will happen and a ton of people will die or something. Everyone will cry about it and we'll move on with our lives and post memes of them in the future on Twitter or something. But I do think that they really need to trim down the list of the characters. And will Chief, quote, like, retire, like, hang up the cleats after this? Like, maybe after the ending of Halo Infinite, he defeats Cortana, and he's like, you know what, I'm just done with this. I just murdered my best friend, and I have no friends, so I think I'm just going to go live on a shack in a mountain or something for the rest of my life. I don't know if that's going to happen. We do know that Master Chief is aging due to some of the jokes and stabs taken at him in Halo 4. And I'm sure they talked about how old he is in one of the damn books at this point in time. I don't know because I'm not a lore nerd. But I think Chief's age will definitely become an issue as they keep jumping forward a couple of years after all these games if he's not doing the whole cryosleep thing. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. I wouldn't be surprised if they hung him up after this and then maybe use him as like cameos and, stand-ins and stuff like that in the future games, because I do think that people like Locke and especially Jerome from Halo Wars 2 could be very good lead roles in future Halo games. Not necessarily to take the torch per se, but have their own game where they can stand alone and be the main character in those FPS games. I think that'd be really cool. So for gameplay, what's going to be the art style for Halo Infinite? And what we've seen so far from the trailer, it looks like it's going to be a mix of the old and the new, but a more emphasis on the old art style. And I've said this in the previous Halo Infinite video. I'm not really going to throw a fit about the art style. I didn't hate the new art style, but if you told me to pick two, I would pick the old one. So I'm not so sure how that's all going to play together with them merging the two. We did see like the Marines in the trailer wearing like the Reach style armor and visors and stuff, but they were carrying the Halo 5 BRs. So I think that's really cool. We do know that Chief is going back to his older Halo 2, Halo 3 era suit that he wore, which will be totally badass. And I would like to know what the explanation between that is, in the lore department. What will we see from the Forerunners? We do know that 343 likes to shift and change the Forerunners to make them not less bullet spongy type of enemies. They are notoriously unsatisfying to just demolish in Halo 4 and Halo 5 because they kind of just vanish when you kill them. I don't like it that they jump around all the time. I hate the Watchers that as soon as you shoot them they take off running, and I don't like the design of the Forerunners at all in Halo 4. I think that's like the biggest problem with that game. But I do think what they did in Halo 5, making more soldiers and making the Knights more of kind of like a elite style character, is much, much better. And I hate those dog things, so don't even get me started about them. But I hope that they tweak them, add some more classes of Forerunners in there, which would be really cool. Or, I'm sorry, Prometheans, that's going to trigger everyone. I don't know if we'll see the Flood in Halo Infinite. I think it would be interesting to see them, and I think a lot of people would love to see them. I just don't know how they would interact with the story or the setting or the timeline or anything of that sort. I'll leave that to the lore nerds to figure out, and just message me on Twitter when you figure it out, because I love to know what's going on in that department. But I think the gameplay is going to be really smooth. It's going to be really solid. I think if we're going to take anything we've seen in the past and apply it to the future, I would say Halo 2 Anniversary, it would look more like that than a Halo 5 in terms of how you move and how the environment interacts with you and how the explosions and the gunfire and the sounds are. I would love to see more of that kind of a style than the Halo 5 one, and it does look like they're heading in that direction with this. For the mechanics, what's going to happen with the mechanics? Are we going to see advanced movement return where you can boost around and stuff? Are we going to see aiming down the sights? Are we going to see sprint be there? I think we're going to see sprint. What about Spartan abilities? 343 has really been trying to figure out what they want the Spartans to do besides being a normal soldier on the battlefield kind of thing. In Halo 4, they went the Halo Reach route with the Spartan abilities. You pick one and you can use it infinite times. And it'd be cute little things like Jetpack and Invis and Promethean Vision and things of that, make an auto-sentry turret, things like that. And then they threw it out the window and did the advanced movement stuff that we know in Halo 5, which is the boost and the ground pound and the floating in midair when you're aiming down the sights. And they did introduce aiming down the sights for better or for worse. I don't really mind it. I don't think it's Halo, but again, I don't really mind it. So I'm curious to see what will stay and what will go. I think aiming down the sights will return, but I don't think it'll be as big of a mechanic as it was in Halo 5. So I think it'll take kind of like a back seat per se and be more along the lines of maybe like aiming down the sights that we're used to with the Halo, any Halo BR besides the Halo 5 one, and like how it was in Halo Reach and stuff like that. But maybe you don't zoom in as much. Maybe you have a specific amount of time that you can aim down the sights. Maybe you have like some sort of stamina and it like runs out. I don't know. They're gonna figure out something. And if aiming down the sights returns as it completely was in Halo 5, I don't think a lot of people would be that bothered by it. I really don't. I don't see people rioting in the streets over aiming down the sights. People riot in the streets over the story. So I think they'll be fine no matter what they choose. My preference is I hate the advanced movements with a passion. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If the Halo 3 throwback playlist returns to Halo 5, I'll start playing Halo 5 again. Like, I think the multiplayer of Halo 5 is really, really, really good when you take out the advanced movement stuff. Once you throw it in and I shoot someone and they take off running, it just ruins it for me. And taking those abilities out really makes it to, in my opinion, it showcases your skill more because it's purely on gunfire and if you can get the jump on someone rather than say, hey, let me fly away and crouch around a corner and then assassinate you when you come out the wall or something. So I think them taking it out will do a lot of more good than keeping them in will. My opinion, though, we'll have to wait and see. Finally, the modes. What will we see in the modes for Halo Infinite? Well, there's been some rumors that the game will only ship with the campaign, and then multiplayer will be like a year down the line. And I'm sure, like, at first glance, that's going to trigger everyone. And at first glance, it triggered me. But then if you think about it, it's like, that doesn't seem that too far-fetched. And I think if the only series that could do that and do that for that long period of time, I think it would be Halo. And I think it also comes down to the design of the campaign. Like, if it's an open world, not fully open world like Skyrim or anything, but more along the lines of, I don't know, like a bigger ODST maybe, but not in a worthless city, like, out in the wilderness discovering things, and you have like a continuous quest that you have to do, but you have to go to all the different areas to progress, and you can do it in any which order you choose. I think it would be pretty neat. Maybe it doesn't have to be completely open world, like maybe sections of it are, and then you go into linear missions in between that. Or they can just go completely linear as Halo games have always been. And I think no matter what they choose, it'll be good. I don't think you can really screw that up. A lot of people were pretty triggered on how holding your hand-ish Halo 5 was. It's very like, hey, let me hold your hand from this area to the next. And if you take a step back and look at, I don't know, like Halo 1 or something, you have much more freedom to kind of explore stuff. And that's what triggered me too. Like, why can't I just go explore shit in Halo 5? The game just doesn't let you do it. They put invisible walls everywhere, and that's like my most hated thing ever in a game is invisible walls. Especially on areas you think you can go explore. And they're like, you know what? Forget about it. You can just sit here and look at it and post it on Twitter. I think that them introducing more freedom will produce a lot more creativity from the players and really keep them engaged with the game. And then if multiplayer is coming later on, this multiplayer better be really, really good. I think the only game that comes to memory where the campaign shipped first, everyone bought it like crazy, and then was fine waiting for the multiplayer was GTA 5. Because that game came out with the story first, and then I think the online came, was it a few weeks or a few months after it came out? I forget. But it was a significant period of time. It wasn't like 2 days or something. It was at least a couple of weeks, if I remember correctly. And everyone was fine with it because the story for GTA 5 was phenomenal. So I think if they kind of replicate that, it'll be fine. Will they also include things like Firefight and Forge? Or will they integrate it into the Master Chief Collection somehow? Like maybe extra achievements or like hidden terminals or something? I have no idea what they're going to add. I think adding Firefight and Forge is a requirement at this point, just because there's so many fans for each of those modes. I mean, there's people who play Halo 5 and Halo Reach and ODST solely for the Firefight, and then there's the same groups of people that play those same groups of games solely for Forge. I mean, there's massive Forge Twitter accounts and YouTube channels out there where all they do is make stuff, and it's really cool. So I think that has to be in the game. There's no excuse not to have it because you've introduced it in the past and everyone loves it. So, and of course, I think it's going to be on PC. So I think it's a big game. It's going to be a really big game, and I think it might be the biggest Halo game ever. And I think it's going to be phenomenal. I really do. So we're going to have to see what comes about in the future of the announcements and the trickles of information that come out from 343 in the coming months, and we'll have to wait. And I'm really excited for Infinite. If you don't know that already, post your thoughts in the comments below. Love to hear what you have to say about all this nonsense, and we'll have a really nice discussion in the comments below. And of course, when there's more Infinite news, it'll be here on Team Respawn. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you later.